So we are here at the Anil Agarwal Dialogue, which is the biggest annual gathering organized by the New Delhi-based Center for Science and Environment. And we have with us Ms. Sunita Narayan, the noted environmentalist and the Director General of CSE, to talk about some key concerns facing the environment in these times. It was the first time we saw in the Delhi elections that environment was a concern among the voters. What do you think about it? Does this signal good times for us?
Well, I think it signals a different time for us. And, till now I've always been asked, why is it that Delhi is so polluted? The river is so polluted. There is garbage on the streets. But why is it that it never makes it to politics? Now, it's always been in the manifestos of parties, but it hasn't been able to get translated into votes. And that's what is ultimately democracy is about. What was interesting to note this year is that the CSTS poll that came post the assembly election, in terms of what were the key reasons why people did not vote for the ruling party, the then ruling party, was that there were, Yamuna, the pollution of Yamuna came on top. The pollution in the air, the toxic air was there, and so was garbage. Now, this is different. And I believe that now that the voters have spoken, and I'm sure the next government, the new government, is going to make sure that these are priorities that are top on their list. This is not to say, Shrishti, they were not part of the list of the last government or the government even before that, okay? I think what's the difference is that we have to understand that there is, in spite of all the actions taken, we are not succeeding. And that's the moment of reflection right now. To understand that this, politics, the elections are over now. And all the time when you name call your opponent, that's gone. Now you're in governance. And the governance challenge is to seriously sit back and say, well, it isn't as if the last government or even the government before that did not care about Yamuna. And yet, in spite of all the money that we have spent on the river seems to get more polluted. It comes into Delhi at Phalla when it is still with a dissolved oxygen level, which is by its own, by the monitoring of by government, at about 5 mg per liter, which means that it is breathing, it is living. Dissolved oxygen is about life in the river. And yet, by the time it comes to the first monitoring station, which is ISDC, it is 0. And then 0, 0, 0, 0 by the time it leaves Delhi at Okla. So, question today is, what do we do differently so that we can solve the problem of Yamuna? So, my position is not just the next government is going to act, but I think the next government has to take the challenge of acting differently.
Yes, I think that's a challenge. And like you said, Yamuna, with such a level of pollution, is officially dead if we really do not revive it at this point in time. We have a lot to see, but we are living in a very uncertain period globally as well. We talk about environmental pollution, but then climate change is happening. Extreme weather events are intensifying, and we have the 47th United States of America's president saying that climate isn't real. What do you think is the way ahead here? Is it going to become more challenging for us, especially for developing countries like India?
So 2 things here. One, let's be clear, this is bad news. Donald Trump and his denial of climate change is bad news. So I'm not going to make light of that, okay? And I'm also not going to make light of the fact that he's coming at a time when the impacts of climate change are even more ferocious and more intense. I mean, forget the poor of India. We know that we have almost one extreme event a day in India. But look at the LA fires. I mean, he was getting sworn into government at a time when the LA fires were raging, and there is a clear reason why that was happening because of climate change. You were seeing prolonged periods of drought. You were seeing periods in which the soil, therefore, was getting less moisture, and this was a tinderbox ready to be burnt. Okay? There are clear, I mean, to me, it defies all logic. I cannot pretend otherwise that this is a time when the world is seeing such horrendous impacts, and you have the most powerful nation of the world and the most powerful president of the world saying, drill, baby, drill. It just is not good news. And the Only two other things I'd like to add to this is one, it's also bad news because now the US will actually increase its emissions.
That's the worry.
And that's the worry because, US had come to a point where it said it had peaked its emissions in 2005. So now it had to reduce. But even if reduction doesn't happen, today we are talking about it actually increasing emissions. And does this mean other countries of the world, therefore, take also a back seat saying, this is too high a cost and we can't do it? The last thing for us is, what do we do? And that's to me most important. I mean, Donald Trump is Donald Trump. The world is one, but what do we do? And I think for us, the reason why we act on climate change is not because of climate change. We act on climate change because it's good for us.
Right.
We have to fix the air pollution in our cities. And to fix the air pollution in our cities, we have to move out of coal. We have to move towards electric vehicles. We have to make sure that we can have electric buses. If we do all that, we actually also have the co-benefit of reducing emissions. But the driver for change for us is not climate change. The driver for change for us is really about doing things which are good for us. And that to me is why I am more confident we will stay on path.
Yeah. So India has committed about 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel capacity for 2030, which is a climate action target. The focus which also needs to be about how much electricity that we are generating from renewable energy, not just the installed capacity. At this point in time, what should be our priority for the government, for the policy makers? What are the areas that we are really missing out on?
So to me, I think the policy is more or less there every. Okay, I think the government of India's intentions and commitments, I have absolutely no doubt about. The point today is to sit back and see where is the focus of implementation going on. And I seriously believe that we are not scaling up at the rate we need to scale up. Take your electric vehicles program. Now, the question you have to ask is why electric vehicles? Okay. For India, the electric vehicle program is an electric mobility program because we are really looking to move people out of cars into buses. We also have to make sure buses, trams, railways, whatever, the way that we pollute, we also have less oil imports as a result of it. Now, that means the government has an incredible electric bus program. 10,500 buses, you just heard, are already on the roads of India. How do we make sure that not just the bus comes in, but the ridership also goes up? Because in Delhi, we are finding that buses are coming in, but ridership is not going up. So those are the kind of things that we need to work on now with we are a resource-constrained country. We do not have, all money to waste. We have resource constraints. So we have to be very deliberate and very targeted and get the scaling so that we can get the impact. Okay. And to me, that's the focus of policy that I think we need to move on now, whether it's renewable, whether it is electrification and mobility, whether it is water and sewage, whether it is waste management. All the policies now need to be much more deliberate for scale and impact and resource efficiency.
Definitely. So there's a huge opportunity for us as a country to work on all these areas, that we can live in a better future and a better present, considering the extreme weather events are really taking a toll on India. Thank you so much for talking to CNN News 18. And
thank you.